The question we're asking on the special broadcast is how widespread are the tentacles of this terror doctor modules? How widespread are these tentacles spread? Is India sitting on a ticking time bomb? Police are saying that some doctors have apparently either switched off their mobile phones or their mobile phones are not reachable and these doctors are untraced. Now, should these doctors come forward and join investigations because of their alleged links with Dr. Muzammil, with Dr. Adil, with Dr. Umar Muhammad, Dr. Umar? We are still waiting for more clarity. And the bigger questions, how does one de-radicalize highly educated medical professionals or engineers or others who masquerade, who are amongst us morning, noon and night, but maybe moonlighting as terrorists? In Kashmir, there was this concept of hybrid terrorists. But are these those hybrid terrorists, or they have now gone across to being full-time terrorists only masquerading as doctors? These are some of the questions we're seeking answers to. Joining me on this India First special broadcast are Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain, former Kashmir Corps commander. He's worked very extensively on bringing youth back into the mainstream. Also with me is Yashvardhan Azad, former Special Director of India's Intelligence Bureau. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is the Founder Director General of the World Institute of Islamic Studies for Peace and Dialogue. Dr. Kartha is former Director of India's National Security Council Secretariat. And General Hasnain, Mamoon Cantonment, sir, in Pathankot is one of the biggest military bases in the country. An Al-Falah hospital-linked doctor working as a senior surgeon in Pathankot, taken into custody, was at Al-Falah hospital, is considered to be close to this network of doctors. What would you deduct from some of these arrests and detentions in searches and raids that are going on nationwide at this point of time?
Kartha, thank you. Firstly, let me start by saying I completely concur with you. What you are looking at is just the tip of the iceberg. As we go along, there's going to be much more which will get revealed. I mean, I say this from the angle that at the moment you're looking at northern India, and in northern India, primarily Delhi, the Mewat area, you're looking at Pathankot and Jammu and Kashmir. I would say this issue will probably go deep south. You must remember that in 2019, you had terror blasts which took place in Sri Lanka on the Easter Day bombings, yes, which were all linked to a huge module somewhere in southern India. We have not forgotten the history of bombings which have taken place in Maharashtra, in central India. So this is a nationwide thing. Now, at the moment, it is centered because of what's happened in Delhi and because of the revelations starting from the posters at the Jama Masjid. Obviously, this whole thing is focused on J&K and Delhi. As to your question on Mamoon, that's an important, well, at the moment, I may not be able to confirm what exactly that would mean. But Mamoon is a very important place. You see, Mamoon is close to Kathua also, just remember. Yes. And this is the general area in which a lot of infiltration has been going on for the better part of the last 1-2 years. All the infiltration routes in Kashmir have been broadly under control. This is the area where closer to Punjab where more and more infiltration routes have opened up. So if there are modules in which people are actually under control by going across and coming back, this is the place possibly where the focus needs to be. But as we go along, I'm sure much more is going to be revealed.
Okay. Dr. Kartha, your take on these arrests and the police, and this is of course at the level of sources right now, saying some doctors have switched off their mobile phones or, their mobile phones are not reachable. They're neither at home nor at their workplaces. They're still trying to reach out to these doctors. Does that immediately raise a red flag? Because if doctors have been in touch with these elements, would they join investigation? Should they join investigation? Or you find nothing suspicious in this?
See, if they had nothing to hide, they would not be switching off their mobiles and hiding, sort of moving out. They would come out and say, yeah, we know this guy, he did this, X, Y, Z. It's not that the whole entire Al-Falah University is under suspicion. They could have come forward. If they put it off, obviously there is a link. I mean, this is, though I entirely agree as usual with General Hasnain, but this is a far larger module than I have come across before. This is a very unusual one with, like we said, with doctors. And the sheer geographical, width, we are going from Nu. By the way, Nu, I've always said I said this last, I think on your show, there are areas which are no-go areas for police. There are concentrated criminal activity. You always see, not always, most of the time, you see a criminal and terrorist activity going together. So I think
Yes.
going forward, we need to look at these areas which have been prone. You remember 23, what happened in Nu? Where that
Yes.
they attacked for them. It's a terrible place. It's got all sorts of characters in it. So there's no wonder that they're able to get fertilizer also from that area, which is otherwise, like you said, is difficult to get hold of. The
You know,
thing
this is an area where cattle smuggling is
yes,
rampant. It's the headquarters virtually of illegal cattle smuggling. It's the headquarters now, we're told, of various criminal gangs that operate in Haryana and in Rajasthan. They carry out a crime and then come back into the protection of Nu. Mr. Yashvardhan Azad, this would be very alarming because for the security forces, for the police, and not just the state police, now the National Investigation Agency, others, they should just crack down on these elements, because the distinction or the difference that swing from illegal cattle smuggling to crimes to terror, it's just a very gradual process. It's almost 50 shades of crime and terror, sir.
Well, it's true. Nu has come in the limelight for a number of reasons. In fact, the cyber crimes of Jamtara, the famous Jamtara, had actually shifted to Nu later, and there was a great recovery and seizure done by the local police. However, the target here is the Al Falah. And, remember, Gaurav, we were discussing this issue the other day, that why are the others but just kept quiet? Because this module was developing for 2 years. These two rooms were the centers of activity, and besides, there was frantic activity, as you're saying, because the doctors are going, changing cars, bringing in ammonium nitrate. It's not possible that nobody, saw it. Nobody saw it at the gate. Nobody saw it anywhere. So obviously they were not speaking. Now, if they were not speaking, either it is because of fear or because of complicity or because of silent kind of, commission that, yes, we know about it, but we sort of want to. Remember that the radicalized, educated lot thinks that it is more evolved, it is a more evolved Islamic kind of a value-led life they are living. So I think there is a lot to be found in it, and I'm glad that the security forces or the government is looking into that particular university. Now, the other very, very dangerous link which you have pointed out, and I just hope they are not linked together, is the Ricin plot and this one. Because the Ricin had some even more dangerous, plans. And the plans were to mix, this Ricin with the Mandir Prasad. And you can imagine what result it would have been, because Ricin does not have an antidote. It just kills you. And
Yes.
something of this kind was used in London, I think 2011 or something like that. Now, but the problem is that in this particular case, the way, because of the technical investigation, has revealed so many links that this is, horrifying. I think this is one of the most frightful modules that one has come across. And as you said, the important point is the race against time means that those people who have been named in a notebook, unless they are sort of, caught early and interrogated to find out what exactly they were performing as a part of the action plan which was given by the
Okay.
Turkey.
Should their names be put out in public domain? As of now, we know some names, but we are not putting them out because the police are not putting them out. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, should these names be put out in public domain for them to come forward, join investigations, or the police are trying to reach out to them? They may be untraced for now. Their phones may be unreachable for now. Their parents, their relatives, their kin, their friends should reach out to them and tell them to join investigations, because I would find this very alarming. I'm sure so would you, that by day they are treating people and by night they are plotting to kill them.
I think you're quite right. It's a horrifying and absolutely deplorable acts that are taking place. And yes, they should volunteer. The name should be put up, and people also should be given to understand that, we appreciate their coming forward, and we appreciate that they come forward and they give us and lead us to the truth. Because you see what happens, because of a small, minuscule amount, a handful of bad doctors or bad, people who are in education gives the entire, it comes like a blanket. It should not come as a blanket for the whole community. You see, this is another fear that exists, and people are afraid to some extent, and they could be complicit, as it has been pointed out, or they could be, conniving. But the point is that those people who can help and whose names are implicated should be contacted, should be put up, and they should come forward, and give all information, because innocent people are being killed. And it is also very unfortunate, if you give me a minute, to say that, this is, yesterday we were discussing this, 2 days ago, that in the name of religion, you see, when we are talking about these Muslim names, we are talking about a deemed university, whose coordination fund movements, whose progressive, uh, and guides in cases and indoctrination of such people is an extremely dangerous, and very un-Islamic. Please let me tell you, it is extremely un-Islamic, simply because I'm quoting to you now what the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, has said, that he who knowingly lends support to tyranny is outside the pale of Islam. This is Tabarani. And the worst form of tyranny is to support one's community in tyranny. You see, so you cannot support just because somebody from your community is doing something wrong, yet you support it. This is Baihaqi. And the other one that I'm going to quote is also from Baihaqi, which says that he who accompanies a wicked man in order to help him in his wicked ways and designs, knowing of his designs, ceases to be a believer. So you see,
And
these
yet
are
this
very
is happening. So, it's just that what you tell us is very different from perhaps what that Maulvi Irfan told these doctors. And somehow, General Hasnain, that Maulvi Irfan seems to have persuaded a large number, or at least a number of these doctors who've now been taken into custody, or some may be at large. Sir, you've served in the Kashmir Valley. We've seen waves of violence and peace, and then violence and peace and terror and peace in the Kashmir Valley. Who knows that better than you? But under the radar, is that radicalization and indoctrination constantly happening? And is India, the entire country, and the community itself not doing enough to de-radicalize these elements?
See, Gaurav, it is an obvious thing that your adversaries will always work in different domains. One may be the use of terror modules, and one may be in the cyber domain, in the technical domain, and one is going to be always working on the ideological domain. Right from the 70s, this has been the Zia doctrine: work on the ideological part, make sure that cultivate enough people, cultivate networks. The term network is only emerging on our channels today. Everyone was only talking about terrorism so far. Now at last people are talking about networks and realizing that it is networks which support terrorism. And radicalism is something which is ongoing at all times. The way you can overcome it is your narrative of counter-radicalism has to be stronger than that of radicalism. What
But
I
sir, are
tried
we
in
too
Jammu and
weak?
Kashmir...
Are we too weak, too politically correct? I want to understand from you, why is it either it's not happening or it's not effective? Why would a Dr. Muzammil or a Dr. Adil or a Dr. Muhammad Umar or Dr. Shaheen, she's from Uttar Pradesh, or Dr. Ansari, they have the best of this country. They're getting the best. They're doctors. They're doing so well. They're MBBS doctors. Why are they getting radicalized in your appreciation, sir?
Gaurav, this is oversimplification of the problem. As I told you, the adversary is focused, the adversary is strong, it's been doing it for far long. We are entering into this aspect of counter-radicalization right at the early stages now. The realization is coming. I would ask any fellow panelists, How many people do you know from different communities who are at all involved with or are aware of various tenets of Islam? Hardly anyone at all, right? So what happens is that when you speak to people, you don't even understand them, you don't recognize them, and they continue to function in this manner, cultivated from all kinds of ideological propaganda which keeps coming from abroad. My strongest recommendation is you have to find a moderate clergy, and there are lots and lots of them in India, who have to come forward, and they are the ones who have to preach the better aspects of Islam to all these people. The problem is that the negative aspects of Islam are actually proliferating in this environment, and that is what is adding to the problem.
Dr. Azad, is that also, Mr. Yashvardhan Azad, is that also your appreciation that, everyone's being so politically correct, you brush it under the carpet? Yes, there's a problem. Let's just deal with the armed terrorist once he's arrested, either after the, terrorist activity has happened or just before it is to happen. And then nobody touches that madrasa where it's happened because, oh my God, people will feel bad. Nobody touches that Maulvi, oh my God, he will feel bad. Is it time to go after these elements at these places and then deal with it at multiple levels? And are we doing it or we are not doing it?
Well, that is a problem which is partial. If you see, radicalization all over the world is happening. And if you see that couple which was there in the USA in the San Bernardino attack, 2015, they were very well cultural, socially, and the FBI was shocked that how could people of this caliber be radicalized. This has happened in other parts. 9/11 had the topmost software engineers, pilots, etc. In France, you have people being radicalized. In India, I feel one is, of course, the sources of indoctrination, wherever the radicalization elements are there, as you rightly said, Maulvis, etc. I agree with General Hasnain when you must use the moderate clergy for it. But de-radicalization cannot be left only to the police or the intelligence agencies. I'll give you a very simple example. Our chief ministers, they must now engage with the educated middle class. They should engage with the educated youth and not only do everything for the voters. And a very important part of this element is that no one should feel aloof that he's not a part of the state. I mean, that is where the de-radicalization begins. And that is why when you strengthen the democracy, when you strengthen the voices of the people, it is a very, very advantageous in the interest of the nation.
But these elements anyway have the best of our society. I fail to understand why would those who are at the center, I mean, doctors, Dr. Tara Kartha, are second only to God in our country. Nobody looks at their religion. They just look at them as healers. But, these healers are actually if there is evidence against all of them, then they're truly merchants of death masquerading as healers. And why should they feel aloof? They have no reason to feel aloof unless they are being misled. And, my only appreciation is that these elements must be dealt with with the strongest possible, action against them as per law, so that one, it serves as a deterrent, and two, the Maulvis who are indoctrinating them should perhaps be dealt with even more harshly, Dr. Tara Kartha, or that enabling environment.
I 100% agree with you. The strongest, what the Home Minister has said, I absolutely back. You need to give the strongest possible punishment to these people. I just want to make one small differentiation from what I was told. The Maulvi was used by Muzammil to get the radicalization ring going. So he was a sort of a counter in this whole game. That is one. Number two is, I will agree with you that there is a responsibility among our religious leaders to sort of talk to people and tell them what the religion is all about. It's, after all, it's a very, very fine religion in its own standing. Why can't that? There are different variations, right? If I want to show something, I want to preach something as being terrible, which you also see in a lot of other, you've got Christian fundamentalism, you've got Hindu fundamentalism at various points. It's how you present it. And number three, your point about education, I want to say this very clearly. It is the educated who are most prone to radicalization.
And
It
there
is
is a
this,
long history. There's a long. Ayman
Yes.
al-Zawahiri, the number 2 of Al-Qaeda, was a medical doctor. Osama bin Laden himself was an engineer by profession. And somewhere down the line, Zeenat Shaukat Ali, is it the failure of the community or the country to isolate these elements, to call out these elements, to take stern action against these elements? Because clearly they cannot be cocooned, they cannot be treated with kid gloves. The more you do that, the more you'll encourage such elements.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. As a person who teaches the subject and who's supposed to be a professor of Islamic studies, I am quite shocked that we should have these kind of people who teach this reverse kind of understanding. And what I was telling you at our last show was that when they see there are certain traditions like a prayer session. So when the imams are delivering that session on a Friday, that that lecture should be written out, scanned, looked into, and then delivered. You see, so that
Yes.
every element of that speaks of the Islamic values of peace, of bridge building, of non-violence, of understanding. I've got a whole book on this, which is now being translated in English, which is called Winning the Peace Quest. It has been translated by the NCPUL in Delhi into Urdu for the
Okay.
simple reason that there are ulama who have written on non-violence, they have condemned suicide bombings, they have condemned violence, and they have quoted the verses. And when I went to request them to write this, they said that,
No,
madam,
Saudi Arabia, where the religion originated, is de-radicalizing elements. Saudi Arabia is de-radicalizing elements. Saudi Arabia is looking at the moderate form. It's happening across the GCC countries. It's happening in the UAE. It's happening in Saudi Arabia. But here in South Asia, they seem to be getting more radicalized now. I mean, how can one be more pious than the Pope? One fails to understand.